Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Today we are going to talk about Nizam al-Mulk at-Tusi, quite interesting personality. That's because he was not only a scholar, he was not only a muhaddith or faqih, he was also a wazir. He was a prime minister of of a state. So he was not only he's been studied in economics, he was also studied in politics. And his magnum opus, Siyasat Nama, I think most of you heard the name Siyasat Nama. It was written in Persian language. Later it was translated into Arabic and then English, which talks about the book that talks about the government and statecraft. It is also called Siyar al-Muluk. Siyar is the statecraft of the Muluk, the kings. It's kind of a manual for the governments. It's a kind of you create a legislation for a government, that kind of thing. So this is quite interesting to know about it, because it is beyond economics, which actually it is inclusive of economics as well. If someone wants to work on political economics, I always see some friends, some students are coming from the Department of Politics, and they want to do minor in economics. I really interested to talk to them, because they bring this idea of political economics, which is something merging two sciences together. And this is the perfect, I think you can get the perfect recipe if you can actually know how to merge these two things together. One is politics, political science, and then the other one is economics as a social science, which always comes and goes together. There is no, there is no politics without economics, there is no economics without politics. And this is the scholar, is a classical scholar, is one of the great example of this study, political economics. Like for example, Ibn Khaldun is also scholar of sociology. He's not only the scholar of economics, so it's a socio-economic. You can have that. Even he talks about anthropology, right? So we have like same thing. We have like Farabi, we have like Tusi. There are so many scholars in that way. Like we have scholars in psychology, and then so this is all the reason. This is quite important reason why we are actually doing this kind of classes, this kind of courses, because this is just to know our past, how our scholars were experts in many fields, and from there we need to learn, and then we need to apply what's going on today. Whatever that we are doing it today, we need to apply those things. I think that's quite important as well. So this is I'm giving you Nizam al-Mulk at-Tusi. If you are familiar with this name Nizam, I think I know most of you know. He was also, because this is quite interesting for the education sector, because he was a politician, he was an economist, and also he was an educationist, because he brought this syllabus we call curriculum syllabus today, we call it, because this is one of the oldest, I think the oldest so far I remember, the oldest curriculum for Islamic studies. Anybody can tell me the name? Anybody from the audience can tell me the oldest curriculum for Islamic studies? Anybody? No?
I have no idea, doctor. Please enlighten us.
But do you know that there is a curriculum that most of the madrasa Pundo they start to follow? Have you
No.
have you considered that there must, because you see now we have our own curriculum like in your UIA, but we follow some Western curriculum as well, isn't it? So
Yeah,
now
that's
if
correct.
you, yeah, if now the same way, if you think about the, because you also agree that we started the university first before the West. You
Yeah,
agree?
in Fes,
Exactly.
Morocco.
Exactly. So now, I think most of you know about, the Al-Azhar, and then even before that, Zaytuna University in Tunis. So these are the oldest universities in the world. Even it was started in Baghdad, during the time of Umayyad, right? So it's been more than 1,000 years actually our universities that been started. So the reason I'm asking you this question because this is quite interesting to know all Islamic studies, and because those days, Islamic studies and scientific studies were not different. It came together. It was taught together. So it is called Darse Nizami. It is called Darse Nizami. I think the name Nizami curriculum for Islamic studies. So this Nizami curriculum comes from who? Comes from this scholar called Nizam al-Mulk Tusi. Now you got the idea. Most of the South Asian or Asian, especially the Middle East and Asia, the way that today we learn Islamic studies, our ulama and ustaz, those people that they go and they learn the studies in Arabic and fiqh and everything. This is the basis of those curriculum. It is called Nizami, Darse Nizami. I mean the curriculum of Nizam. So he is a Nizam. Now, you will be surprised that do you know who Nizam al-Mulki, that who do you know who did he appointed as a chair? Anyone? Anybody?
Is it Ghazali, sir?
Very good, very good. That's nice. That's the right answer. He is the one who brought Imam al-Ghazali into administration. So today we have Imam Ghazali chair, like for example, ISTAC, we have Imam Ghazali chair. And then in many universities, when you talk about a scientific chair, because in every study, there are scientific chairs. And especially in Islamic universities, usually there is one chair called Imam Ghazali's chair, and it will be given to a professor, very good professor, distinguished professor, and then he will be doing the work related to Islamic studies and all, especially with related to Imam Ghazali. But it is also quite interesting to know the one who initially gave the real chair to Imam Ghazali was Nizam al-Mulk at-Tusi. All right. Okay, let's go back to his background. Let us know more about him. All right. His name was Abu Ali Hassan ibn Ali Tusi. So Tusi is the is the place where he was born. By the way, he was a Persian, and he was born when there was a Ghaznavid dynasty. Then he became the scholar and minister for Seljuk dynasty. So you need to know these two things, Ghaznavi and Seljuk. If you know about Ghaznavi, even we are Indians, even we have many families coming from this family of Ghaznavi. And in fact, the reason why the Mughal came to India, they are much related to Ghaznavi. Ghaznavi is the Islamic version of Persian ruling. And then later, the Turk and Persio-Turk, they call it. The Persio-Turk came together, and the Persio-Turk came together, and then they came and then they took the dynasty, the kingdom from Ghaznavi. But the Ghaznavi was the Muslim version of Mamluk origin dynasty. Most of the large number of the part of the Iran were under their restriction. All right. Then later came Seljuk. So obviously, as I told you, Nizam al-Mulk was born in Ghaznavi empire, Ghaznavi dynasty, so that his father, Nizam al-Mulk's father, was working under the administration of Ghaznavi. All right. Then later, he has to move to another place because of the fall of the Ghaznavi. Then later, he was also under the administration, working for the administration for Seljuk dynasty. From there, Nizam al-Mulk, Tusi, got some connection, politically speaking, to work for Seljuk dynasty. So it was actually the reign of Alparslan. I think now you know the word Alparslan. Maybe if you watch some Turkey's series and videos, I think you know the word. It's quite famous word actually. Alparslan, Alparslan, Alparslan. There were so many Alparslan, by the way. So this Alparslan is actually he was the great grandson of the Seljuk himself. From there, actually, the Seljuk dynasty came out, and later Nizam al-Mulk also was working for Malik Shah. So all this actually comes under Seljuk dynasty, by the way. So this is the timeline. The timeline was exactly, if I have to precisely tell you, exactly 1,000 years ago. So Nizamuddin was there exactly because Nizamuddin was born in he was in the time 1018. So 1018. So now is 2020, right? So he was like born 1,002 years ago. All right. So he died in age of 74 in the year of 1092. He spent a lot of time in politics, by the way, as I told you earlier. So because of that, he was able to, observe so many things, and then he started to give the legislation for the governors. I think that's quite important, because we didn't all the time, we didn't think about conquering the world. Administration is very important. Why Muslims were able to conquer until they go to India, right? And in that time, it's not that easy. If you have a strong army, it's not that only the strength in your army is good enough to conquer the world. It is actually administration. If you don't have the proper administration, I don't think you will be able to achieve what you're supposed to achieve. All right. So with that note, so let us continue. All right. So yes, his name was Khwaja. I think you also know the name Khwaja. I think it's quite famous name. I think in my knowledge, I think this is the first famous name. Famous. I know the Khwaja is a quite famous name. They also call it Khaja, but the right spelling is the Khwaja. Khwaja, yeah. Kha Wow Alif Khwaja they call it. It's a Persian name, by the way. I think this is the first for the oldest. I think I remember the name Khwaja. Abu Ali Hassan ibn Ali Ishaq, commonly referred to Nizam al-Mulk, was a landmark figure of the history, of course, Seljuk Turk, of course. He was born in 408, 1017 or 1018, the small town Radkhan located in suburb of Tus. Tus is a city. It's situated about 50 miles to the north of Mashhad in Persia. His father was appointed by the governor of Khorasan as a tax collector, but later this Khorasan came into the restriction of Seljuk. Yeah. So he of course Nizam al-Mulk was able to travel to many places, number of towns like Bukhara, Merv, and then he went to also Ghazna, right, where he actually he was able to learn from many scholars. This is all actually usually it comes together with the political administration as well. He didn't only go there for studies, he also went there with some political idea, some political ideology, and where he was able to learn. So beside that, his father decided to see him pursuing the legal profession. As I told you, he was at the age of very young age, he was able to placed under the guidance of Abdul Samad Funduraji, a profound scholar of law. Next, he studied with an outstanding Shafi'i alim known as Imam Muwaffaq Nisabur, and of course Nizam al-Mulk was able to this is what I was telling you, he was able to become administrative master of Turkish Seljuk Empire because of these connections. And this is what one of his great contribution about madrasas. He organized a system of education. I think this is a quite important work as well, because after seeing so many people traveling for seeking the knowledge, by that time, until we are talking about just 408. What does it mean? It means it's only 400 years after the demise of close to 400 years after the demise of Prophet ﷺ. So within these 300 to 400 years, what was the method of seeking knowledge? Absolutely traveling. There is no other way that you can actually learn knowledge. You have to travel to learn knowledge. You have to go, and it's not like traveling means traveling to one university and then stay there in Mahalla and then learn. It's not like you and me we are doing today. It's more or less like you need to travel particularly to see one ustaz, one scholar, and then you learn. You stay there, and then you pay for the accommodation and everything. You stay there as a guest, and then you learn from him. After his permission, he says that, okay, I taught you this, and then this is my certificate that I taught you. You listen, you heard from me. These are the sanad and everything. They give you the shahadat. Then for the other, for other fun of, fun means in Arabic, not in English, arts. The other arts of the knowledge, he has to travel to the other scholars. So now he has to go through so many scholars to get his knowledge. So it was actually the practice of any intellectuals those days. But he saw that there must be some reformation must be brought to the education system. That's why he started organizing regular madrasas. Today what we call madrasa, in fact, if you look in the word madrasa, it doesn't reflect that madrasa means only place where they teach you how to recite Quran. Because the word madrasa is actually dal, ra, sin, which comes from dars. The word dars, the place where dars happens, is called madrasa. It's actually a school, right? Most of the time, we call a school. We used to say school means where you go and learn English, science, and mathematics, and then madrasa means where you go and you learn Arabic or Tajweed or Quran or Tafsir. This is what the current practice, isn't it? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. This is what usually in India, back in India, this is what. But the literal meaning of madrasa is actually school. In school, you know, they teach everything. So he founded several important colleges, universities, and then, as I told you, he's the one who brought Imam Ghazali to the school, right? Also, so many infrastructural and economic development, you know. In fact, not only he stopped at the school, he also went to the infrastructure, talks about road, taxes, and everything, right? And then, in fact, he was able to get great, recognition, awards, influences from two great rulers. One is Al-Parsalan and another is Malik Shah. They call him, you know, Radi'u Amir al-Mu'minin. This award was never before conferred before that. This was the first time to the Wazir. Also, Malik Shah gave him the title, the high title of Atabek. The word Ata, I think it's coming from Turkey, because Ata is actually like father. I think Ata means father. Maybe Bek, something like of course, it's mentioned already here, Father Lord, right? You know, the word even the word Ata, back in India, especially the south part of India, we used to call our fathers by the name of Ata. Have you ever heard word Ata in Malaysia, Adura?
Never.
Can you anybody heard somebody, maybe like, have you seen Indian Muslims calling their fathers by the name of Atta?
Probably not Atta, more like Appa.
Appa, okay, good.
Yes, Appa.
The difference, Appa is those who are non-Muslims, they call Appa. That is the Indian non-Muslims, they call Appa. But the Indian Muslims, they call the word Atta. For example, I call my father Atta, actually. Atta. So you see how I just want to tell you how culturally, you know, it's been rooted into our life. So that's just a. Okay. So moving on, his work, of course. Remember, he got 3 works that has been recorded, but only one work is actually available, which is actually quite famous, which is actually Siyasat Nama. He was credited to many other works, but only 3 works has been mentioned somewhere. The first one is Siyasat Nama, also known as Nizam al-Mulk. The second one is Dastur al-Wuzara. This is as known as Wasaya Khawaja Nizam al-Mulk. It's like his own advice, precept of Khawaja Nizam al-Mulk. It is also called Wasaya. I think you know the word Wasaya is actually Wasiya, from Wasaya. And then number 3 is actually Safar Nama. This Nama, again, the word Nama is actually same like name in English, Nama in Persian, in Farsi. The book of travels is reported to be no more in existence, of course. But other than that, the Siyasat Nama was able to address, and also you are able to be not only that scholars they accepted, even the governors, the rulers also, they accepted that book as a book of legislation, which comes in 50 chapters. The book comes in 50 chapters, Siyasatnama, spreading over it talks about the factors of political success. Even he gives idea of how you have to be, if you want to become the successful ruler, what are the things you have to do. He talks about the royalty, how you must be, supposedly you must be show your loyalty to your king, and also the duties, along with the he talks about the administration of every department. This is what we say specialized, his specialized area. He goes into government's departments administration. All right. He talks about the stability of the state, and then he also talks about the running a government. These are the things. For that time it was quite new to Islamic studies, because there were so many rulers were ruling it, but when scholars like him started ruling, they were able to capture the data, and then they convert into thesis. That's what happening today that we are doing, and he was able to do that. Also, the book significantly contributes to many principles, that of course the international affairs, and then the domestic affairs. So far, the book is actually a great contribution if you want to see how Islamic world was, how Islamic world was existing before the 5th century of Hijrah. I mean, before the 11th century of Miladi. All right, that's really a very good work of him. And the position, I think I told you about it. Some of the position was of course the Prime Minister for Seljuk Empire, and he started with Alparslan, then Malik Shah. These were the Seljuk empires. All right. And let's go and talk about his economic ideas. I think this is where we have so many things to talk about, but I will just go through one by one. I will just go through, brief. I will do it briefly. I want you to also read, because I have already attached the slides, and also his work in IIUM. So please go back and learn from there. Inshallah, you will be having much thing to do. What about his economic outlook? Actually, what first of all, of course, he want to talk about as a state, he wants to portray state as a moral institution. This is what actually this is quite interesting theory, state as a moral institution. So what you see from the state, what you learn, and what you learn from there, you apply in your life. So that kind of role to show a very good example to the nation and the people, right? And also he founded on the values and principles, because he clearly understands the nature of Sharia, and then the nature of state. Because you see, the place where he was born and brought up, I think there were so many, blood shots. There were so many killings and warfares all the time. He knows about the politics and government and the state all the time. Like as I told you, Ghaznavi was there, and then Seljuk was there, and then this Persian and Turkey. These are the things always there. But he wanted to bring Sharia as a regulator. So that is quite important. That's why uh, whatever the system that today we are following, we don't have to actually change everything to so-called Islamic, right? That's not the right thing to do, in my opinion. I would say that you use the Sharia as a regulator, and then you bring the values and morals to that system. Because as a player, whether you are the taxpayer or whether you are the tax collector, either you will be one, whether you are the taxpayer or you are the tax collector. You just contribute. You take the values and morals from the Sharia, and then you contribute to your system. That's good enough already. It's become Islamic already. Not necessarily, it has to be in the name of Islamic this, Islamic that. That's my humble opinion, by the way. Otherwise, what is the point of learning all this good stuff from our scholars? These are the examples that they lift, but not necessary that they just only portray the word Islamic, but they were able to bring and study. They were able to bring the values. Then you have he talks about the principles of maslaha in administration, right? He says that if any short-term interest came into conflict with moral principles on to one hand, and the well-being of a larger entity or community on the other, Nizam al-Mulk, he says that he has to sacrifice the short-term gain, because you cannot have the short-term gain upon the cost of the larger entity or the community, because you see, this is what happening today. There is unemployment, so let us bring the factory to fulfill the jobs. But that factory, what if that factory is actually if that factory actually emitting the gas, and then the green gas, so it's because of that is actually polluting the city, the country, polluting the environment, and it caused the entire, so these are the things, this is where actually we forgot to follow the Sharia, because we talk about maqasid, and then we talk about the health and life, and then we forgot what is the objectives of that, because it's not, for example, to make your health and life better. It's not that betterment of your life and health is the objective of Sharia. Your health and life must go with your Sharia. That is what the objective of Sharia. Because if your health and wealth has to be better in accordance with your objectives, then it is not the objective of Sharia. Right? Do you understand my point? Let's say someone wants to make it better, his progeny. Someone wants to make it better, his intellect. Someone wants to make better his wealth, and all those 5 things. On what basis? Is it particularly on your own objectives? No, it has to be based on the objectives of the Sharia. The objective of the Sharia is actually maslaha, bringing the maslaha. Can I build can I build great hospitals whereby I can actually cure anybody in a second? So don't worry if you have a drinking problem, if your lungs are getting worse, don't worry, we have the system that my hospital can cure in a minute. So you are telling people to come to my hospital, I will cure your lungs. Shouldn't be a problem because we achieved the Maqashi Sharia. Because Maqashi Sharia is stopping someone to drink alcohol. And then today I'm saying that I have a hospital whereby actually I can cure the lungs problem because of the drinking. Then the question comes on whose objectives that we are working. Is it the objective of Sharia or is it the objective of Shaitan? Right? So any betterment, any development that we are having within that 5 fundamental values, those development must go with the objective of Sharia, not the objectives of the human, not the objective of the dunya, not the objective of the shaitan. All right. So this is where actually we need to be very clear. I think scholars like Nizamuddin, Nizam al-Mulk, I think they applied those things, and then they started giving us so many examples of what they have done earlier. He also talks about safeguarding welfare. Let me just go to here. Okay, this is the principle of maslaha. He also talks about the welfare, productivity, and efficiency. All right, and he also talks about the national stability, because he says that food should be plentiful and the state should organize free kitchens. So look who brought this idea, free kitchens. Exactly like 1,000 years ago. A Muslim scholar, a politician who brought the idea of free kitchens. Right? Today we only see this in Facebook page and Instagram, isn't it? So the agricultural produce should be kept up so that there is no shortage of foodstuff. State granaries should be maintained in the empire to provide plentiful foodstuff during natural calamities and or bad harvests. So this is all actually today whatever we are saying about stocking, storaging, and everything. It's been there long time ago. All right. The market is to be controlled in the interest of the consumer. Okay, this is also, he talks about the market. He talks about the cautious economic measurement as well. He talks about the number of men, especially when it comes to armies, because there was some idea of reducing the number of armies, and he said should not be reduced, because if you reduce the number of the armies, then you are reducing the security of the country, right? At the same time, he also talks about the optimal employment labor. This is the other side. First of all, he said when it comes to army, he said the number of army must be remain the same. You cannot reduce, because if you reduce, there is no safety for the country. But when it comes to internal affairs, okay, that one is the foreign affairs. Okay, this one is internal affairs. He talks about the home internal office, home internal administration. He says that the number of administrators must be less, so that they will take the responsibility. If there is too many people to do the same work, if you look theoretically speaking, if there are too many people to do the same work, theoretically speaking, it is good, right? Because the work will be done quickly. But the truth is, He says, if there are so many people to work, nobody will take the responsibility. You got what I'm saying? So that it has to be given to the proper person, to the right person, to the right position, so that the work can even, go, and the work will be great. So this is actually a kind of perception of Nizam al-Mulk. And then he talks about the socio-economic equality. I think you can also read this. He talks about this just tax system. All right, I want you to read all these things. And then again, the land policies. Yeah, he talks about land policies. He talks about the lands that given for muzara, for agricultural product, and for musharaka product and all. Right. I think there are so many things actually he has done. Even some of them, some of our scholars, like Siddiqui, he also wrote something about him. I think I get you the paper so that you can have the full paper, right? And then he also talks about the attributes of the head of state. Maybe we can read this: a comely appearance, a pleasing disposition, integrity, manliness, daring skill in horsemanship. Look, he talks about the personalities that a leader should have. So just compare these personalities with today's Muslim world leaders. He talks about the skill in horsemanship, knowledge of and expertise in the use of various kinds of arms and accomplishment in different arts, pity and mercy upon the creatures of God. Also, there should be strictness in the performance of promises, sound faith and true belief, devotion to the worship of God, and the practice of such virtuous deeds as praying in the night, abundant fasting, respect for the religious authorities, honoring devout and pious men, winning the society of men if learning and wisdom, giving regular alms, doing good to the poor, being kind to the subordinates and servants, and relieving the people their oppressors. These are the very good, very good quality of, the leaders that he talks about. These are the attributes of the head of the state. Yeah. Okay. So I think these are the things, and then he also talks about the control of the public servants. Like I told you earlier, like he doesn't want too many people working for the same thing, right? He talks about the qualitative development of the public servants, preventing the measurement. He talks about the proper system of the checks and balances, so that there won't be any abuse of public authority. All right. He talks about the misappropriation of funds, abuse of power, criminal and civil breaches, and all. All right. He talks about the economic development, of course, as I told you earlier. He also talks about the I think similar things. Yeah, correct. Okay. He also bring this. This is very relevant to the economic market of economy itself. He talks about muhtasib. All right. It is not only the scholars who came later talk about muhtasib. Muhtasib is always there. Muhtasib is someone who actually have a responsibility, the quality of the trustworthiness, and then he will be holding the accountability and reliability, and he also must be the muttaqi, piety. He must be the muttaqi, the right person to do that. All right. So he also talks about all these al-hisba, muhtasib. And then this is also one of his very good contribution, because he talks about the public compliance, because most probably he brought this first. I think he had a court whereby public people can go and they can do their compliance against their governors. I think this is also something that he brought it himself. And again, lastly, there were some misconception. Like last time when I talked to you about Ibn Hazm, about socialist. So when it comes to Nizam al-Mulk, there are some misconception. They call him as a Persian nationalist. No doubt, if you go to Iran, I think of course they consider him as a father of the nation. Of course, that's because today we have nation. But those days, everything actually, every Muslim can go anywhere, isn't it? So I think that kind of thing. So not necessarily he has to be the Persian nationalist. He's actually a great Islamic Muslim, Muslim statesman or economist or political economist. You can call him anyway. All right. I think that's all from me. This is your password.